Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Disney World Q&A. This is the series in which I walk around the little virtual recreation of Walt Disney World here on MC Magic and answer your questions about Disney, anything relating to the cartoons, the movies, the live action films, the parks, you name it. If you have a question, I'll try and answer it. This is a little out of the norm. If you're a regular watcher, you might be wondering why this is up on Wednesday. I normally have a creative series on Wednesday. Because of changes on that server, I'm actually going to put that series on hold until everything's sorted out and all set. And then in the meantime, what I'll do is every Wednesday I'll put up either a bonus Q&A or something else. But you get some extra Q&A. So let's go ahead and walk around the Magic Kingdom and answer your questions. Despite the fact that it's only been about a week since the last Q&A, I have plenty of questions here. So let's just dive right in. My first question comes from the Franchise 50, who says, Rob, thanks for answering my question. Now I have another one. Do you think Disney should roll the dice and take a break on Disney movies and focus completely on theatrical shows? I'm a big theater fan and would love to see more Disney plays being done. Do you think it would be a good idea, and how do you think it would affect the growth on the company and interest the fans will have? Have a wonderful day, and I can't wait to make my house on your plot. Well, that's unfortunate since I just paused that series, but thanks for the question, Franchise. I guess my answer would be I don't think they should put a hold on movies. I mean, it would certainly be a roll of the dice, that's for sure. But when you have a company as large as Disney, the fact of the matter is you don't have to put a hold on any one thing. It's such a large organization that you could do everything at once, and sometimes that's a very overwhelming thought to have because you can't imagine as like one person tackling all these things, and it certainly doesn't make me envious of Bob Iger or whoever fills his shoes. But they don't really need to pause the movies to work on theater. Do I think they should do more theater? I think so. I think that'd be cool. I mean, I'm sure they're working on a Frozen. Aladdin's just opening up this year. So they are doing a little more theater than usual. I think the big thing is, from an entertainment company standpoint, theater is not as profitable as film. Just for the reasons that, to go to a play, you have to get people there. You can't have a play run 5 times a day every single day for a couple of weeks like you could do with the movie, in thousands of movie theaters across the country. So, that return on the money isn't quite there. But I think the fact that they're going to do something Frozen related and they have Aladdin coming out shows that they haven't forgotten about the theater and that it is still a valuable option for them. But I'd like to see some more. I'd love to see some theater. I don't know what I'd like to. I mean, my dream play from Disney was always Aladdin, and now it's coming true. So I don't know what my new dream play from them would be. I don't think it'd be something more recent. I think it would be an older, do they have a Cinderella? I think there's a Cinderella out there. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe how about a play that's not based on a movie, but based on something Disney related, like the life of Walter Roy. I don't know. That would be interesting. Something similar to the way they did Saving Mr. Banks. Anyway, thanks for that question. Our next question as we go down Main Street here comes from Lunar Distortion, who asks, do you think Muppet Vision 3D needs a refurbishment? And if so, what would it be? Thank you for answering my question. I love your work. Well, thank you. Do I think it needs refurbishment? Sure. I think it's kind of aged. I think the 3D technology is not as advanced. Oh, look at the fountains as it used to be. I mean, that's the first obvious refurbishment there is, right? Use the new 3D film technology that we have. We have special cameras that really enhance the quality of it, and I think doing that with the film would be great. Reshoot it, tie it into these new Muppet movies that are out there. Get some really popular cameos from all those people who were in the films. I think that would make it fun and relevant, and I think ultimately, aside from, a projector change and shooting the new film, it wouldn't cost too much to do because you don't have to actually redo the building much at all. So yes, my answer is I think so, and I think that's what they should do. Next question comes from Jakey Jurin, who asks, hey Rob, a question. If you were the next CEO of Disney, what do you think would be the first thing you'd change? What do you buy and sell, and what would you change with the parks and studios? Also, do you think Universal should give up the Marvel Superhero Island to Disney, as Marvel is Disney now? I know about the contract Universal made Disney sign, but I think it's unfair. Thanks. So just to clear something up really quickly, it's not that Universal made Disney sign a contract. What it is terms were set back when Marvel signed contracts with Universal, back when Marvel was its own company. And when you buy a company, you're sort of also buying all of those contracts, so the stipulations of those contracts still apply. Now, it is entirely possible that Disney could offer Universal enough money to buy out that contract and then sort of take over Marvel and put it in the parks, but I suspect that Universal knows the value of all of that Marvel IP, and they would ask for so much money that it wouldn't be worth Disney's time. So that answers that question. As for what would I do as CEO, I would allocate a large portion of the Disney World budget to new original rides, completely original ideas that aren't based on old IPs. I've spoken about that many times in the past, that I'm a big supporter of original rides. I think some of my favorites are originals, like the Haunted Mansion and Space Mountain. And then I would also probably either buy or form a serious AAA video game developer. I know they have a deal with EA where EA is exclusively developing their Star Wars games. I think that's a good first step into getting back into that industry, but I don't think that should be their long-term plan. I think, you know, like everything else, Disney has its own style of doing things, and, you know, they originally wanted to hire out to other hotel companies to run their hotels in Disney World, and they found that those other companies just couldn't adopt to the Disney, the quote-unquote, the Disney way, and so they just had to do it themselves, and look at how great that's turned out. I think video games, like film, like parks, like hotels, like everything they do is no different, and, you know, they should be doing that themselves. And then, you know, probably easier said than done, but I would love to give everybody a raise, right? Because shouldn't everybody get more money for their hard work? I think that'd be awesome. I don't know if I could live as a CEO making millions of dollars a year. I think that's too much money for me to understand. This is really awesome. I don't remember this. That's cool. Next question comes from Architect Films. Or actually, hold on. We're gonna jump back to your question, but since we're here, let's go. I want to go back to a specific spot for one of these questions. The next question comes from 525 Gabe, who asks, "Hey Rob, over the years I've gone to Disney and I've only seen the Tomorrowland Terrace open 2 or 3 times, and I was wondering why. Thank you and keep up the great work." So, what 525 Gabe is referring to is the Tomorrowland Terrace here in Disney World, which originally, well, not originally, but previously was like the Tomorrowland Terrace Noodle Shop, and before that it was the Plaza Terrace, which was called that because the hub used to be called the Plaza instead of a hub. But as you can see here, it's Tomorrowland Terrace. It isn't open all the time. And I looked into this, and I can't find a specific one reason as to why it's closed a lot of the time. Maybe it's not a lot of the time. Maybe it's just luck. I also haven't seen it open very often. I think part of it could just be that demand isn't too high for the food in that specific area. It could be that they might have had to overhaul it for it to be a good restaurant. You know, definitely it now has the sort of space and viewability to watch the fireworks, so I think it's open regularly now, although in the past it wasn't. I think it just had a rocky couple of years. So I just wanted to answer that question here while we were near the Tomorrowland Terrace, and then we'll shoot through Tomorrowland and we'll head on over to another park. So going back to Architect Films, Architect Films asks, do you know the reason why Disney had Star Wars Battlefront 3 from being produced after they bought LucasArts from George Lucas? I was really looking forward to the game, but now it seems like it'll never happen. Thanks. Well, great news, Architect Films. It actually is going to happen. This scenario is actually sort of the opposite. Battlefront 3 was conceptually pitched early on, you know, closer to the life of Battlefront 2, back when George Lucas owned Lucasfilm and LucasArts, but it ended up getting scrapped, and it looked like at that point it was never going to happen. Eventually, Disney purchased the rights to everything Star Wars, and they made an exclusive deal with EA to make AAA Star Wars titles going forward in the future. What's great is EA then took their company DICE, which is a developer known for making the Battlefield series, and they have tasked them with creating Battlefront 3. Now, I don't think it's Battlefront 3 like a proper third game, but it could be just like a reboot, but they are working on Star Wars Battlefront. So, you know, you're in luck. There will be a Battlefront game. Will it be good or not? I don't know. This is, you know, not a Disney related thing, but I think DICE has had a lot of issues both with EA and on their own when it comes to developing a competent Battlefield game, so I don't know how it's going to be. I've personally come to adopt the policy that I wait for any EA game to listen to reviews and to see what happens, because I've been burned by Battlefield 4, I was burned by SimCity. These were games that looked great, looked like, no-brainers, and then I got them and they were either so buggy they didn't work, or they were just awfully designed. So I would hold off on buying it right away, but, there's a chance it could be good. Let's see, next question comes from Jeremiah Rivera. You asked an awesome question last time, and I think you asked an awesome one this time, too. Hey, Rob, do you think that Bob Iger, as CEO, has done more positive or negative for the Disney company? You mentioned in previous videos that he hasn't added anything original to the theme parks, but instead has only acquired other properties for use, Marvel, Lucasfilm, etc. Have Iger's decision concerning Walt Disney World have been beneficial, or are they just adrift further away from the park's full potential to come up with original ideas? This is a tough and amazing question. I love this question. Question of the week. So I think you're asking two things in here, because at one point you mentioned Disney company as a whole, and then the other Disney World. I think his decisions are sort of a problem for Disney World, because like I've mentioned in the past, and like you mentioned, we haven't seen anything truly original come out of Disney World since Iger took over. It's all based on something else, and I think there is true and amazing value in designing original ideas from scratch. Not to say that what they have been designing is bad, it's just think back to your favorite rides, the Jungle Cruise, the Space Mountain, the Haunted Mansion, Spaceship Earth. These are all completely original ideas. They're not based on anything but themselves, and it's a shame that there isn't more of that. But I think as a whole, he has helped the company so much. I think while a wholly different strategy, I think buying these other properties like Marvel and Lucasfilm is going to prove to be useful. I mean, I was watching Captain America, and I was just completely stupefied as to how much money Disney must be making between all of the Marvel films, the Avenger films, the Star Wars films that they're going to be coming up with soon, and then all the Disney stuff like Frozen. And I think Frozen's a good example that, Iger's not... he's not hesitant to making original ideas in general. I think it's just within the parks. So I think he's had a positive experience, and I think in the long run it'll help, because even if the person who steps in decides to switch over to more original projects, he or she will be able to do that because they will have the financial backing that comes with these huge cash cows that they now own. So I think overall he's had a positive impact on the company. I think just some of those benefits won't show until later down the line. Great question. Next question comes from Tyler Sims. And Tyler Sims asks, I know this is unrelated, but in a few weeks, I'm going to Disney World on a school trip, so I have two questions. Actually, this is totally related. It's Disney. Are the parks crowded around this time of year and at the end of April and the beginning of May? My next question is, how do you think I should get around the parks there? So as for getting around the parks, there are so many ways. There are the monorails, there are the buses, there are boats. They're all free, which is fantastic. Coming from a city with a transit system you have to pay for, being able to just step on a bus is really nice. They're free, they're clean, they're timely. You could always, of course, rent a car, but I wouldn't suggest that. I mean, if you're going to be on property, I think just using those free methods is totally fine on their own. I would say enjoy travel. When I go there, we actually will sometimes take the less efficient route to one place to another just to enjoy the form of transportation. For instance, a lot of the times, if we're going from, say, Magic Kingdom to MGM, we could take a bus to do it. But sometimes we'll take the monorail to the Contemporary, and then we'll take a bus from the Contemporary just because we want to ride the monorail and it's fun. Or we'll take a boat, to the Ticket and Transportation Center and then grab a bus just so we can hop on a boat for a while. It's very enjoyable. As for how crowded the parks are, in my experience, before Memorial Day, which is in May, it's pretty empty. I went one year where I was actually there before Memorial Day and then during and a little bit after, and the change from before to after was like insane. It went from being like really nice, really, relieved, no lines, to being pretty crowded. So before Memorial Day, I think you're good. April is a little fishy because I imagine probably some people will go on Easter vacation, but I can't imagine it being too bad. It's really just the summer months that get super, super crowded and on like specific holidays. Great question. Thanks. Next one comes from Boogeyman, who says, Rob, what do you think about Disney, not as a company, but as a place ran by Uncle Walt, and what was it like before Eisner? So, as a place ran by Uncle Walt, I can't really speak to from personal experience. You know, I was born in 87. By that point, Eisner was already in charge, which is why it's interesting. Some people talk about how Eisner sort of has hurt Disney over the years, and it's hard for me to imagine that because the only Disney I know is an Eisner Disney and a post-Eisner Disney, and I love the place. But from everything I've read, you know, Disney before Eisner was a lot simpler, a little bit smaller. You know, he wasn't running this company for profit. He was running it for the people. And while that's great for a consumer, and that means cheaper tickets, that also means not having the resources to do some of the expansions that you could do. Keep in mind, before Eisner took over, Epcot was just opened, and then there was the Magic Kingdom, and like half the hotels weren't there, and so many of the other things were not there. It was really just those things. Once Eisner stepped in, you had all these other parks. So think of a smaller, you know, more intimate, I guess, experience, because, you know, there are less rides for more people to go to, more classically themed rides, because we didn't have, you know, the Disney Renaissance with Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast and all that stuff to tie into it. You know, at that point it was still like Pinocchio and Snow White and all that stuff, Mickey Mouse. So that's, you know, better or worse, just different in my opinion. But, you know, there are definitely books that you could read that sort of talk about Disney pre-Eisner, mainly, you know, Walt's biography by Bob Thomas. It's Walt Disney, an American Original. Next question, actually related to that, comes from Deck Butler, who asks, what was Walt Disney's brother called? That's an easy one, Roy Disney. You should look it up. Roy O. Disney. There's a book about him called Building a Company, Roy O. Disney and Building a Media Empire, or something like that. It's by Bob Thomas. A lot of people overlook Roy, unfortunately, but he was a huge part of the Disney company. He was the checks and balances with Walt. You know, Walt would have all these crazy ideas, and he was the logic-minded person who knew what to do to put those ideas into practice. We're by the monorails. Let's go take the bus somewhere. So, you know, without him, Disney, I don't think would have ever been able to flourish the way he did. So, you know, he was a very important person. And he, you know, postponed his retirement after his brother Walt died in order to make sure Walt Disney World was built and finished. And he died shortly after that, which was also very sad and unfortunate. Next question comes from Matt Bobcat World, who asks, I have a Q&A question. Next year, 2015, Star Wars Episode 7 will come to theaters. Do you think they will add new destinations to Star Tours because of Episode 7? I don't see it happening just because they've recently refurbed the ride. However, I do think you will see them do something Disney World related for Star Wars. Definitely it's going to be a special Star Wars weekends that year. Maybe new rides, maybe new announcements for parts of the park, but I don't know if they're going to do something specifically with Star Tours. Maybe they could. I don't know. If it's just a matter of making new scenes and rotating them in, then it's entirely possible. Let's see. How many questions? We got 3 questions left. Next one comes from Matt's Tech UK, who asks, hey, Rob, here's a Marvel question, which I guess is Disney related, seeing as they're distributed by Disney. Do you think Marvel Disney will buy back the rights to characters like X-Men and Spider-Man from the studios which were licensed to them in 1999, seeing as Marvel is now much more successful and can make a lot of money for Disney with these properties? So, do I think they will do it? Yes. Do I think they will do it soon? No. Do I think they want to do it? Probably. You know, so the idea here is that Marvel sort of sold off the rights separately to different production companies when they were making movies before they were bought. So I want to say it's 20th Century Fox that has the X-Men, and Sony has Spider-Man, and then Disney and Marvel have the rest. which is weird because, like, Spider-Man's an Avenger. Can I not get on? I thought we used to be able to warp on these buses. Okay, let's go to Epcot, my favorite park. And from what I understand, the reason you're seeing like a Spider-Man reboot is because as long as they keep using this, they can hold on to those rights. And because they realize that Marvel's such a valuable property now, I think you're going to see them keep doing it. So I think it'll be very, very expensive for Disney to buy back those rights to fold them into the movies. When I think that will happen, uh-oh, are we starving? Oh, we're starving. Now we're good. When I think they will pony up that money is when I think you see the public start to lose interest in the Avengers and Marvel films in general. I think that's when they'll need a shot in the arm, and that's when I think they'll pony up the money to get Spider-Man back or X-Men back or both, and then fold them into the Avengers universe to sort of revigorate that that property. Now, when will that be? Who knows? I mean, people are still talking Avengers left and right. Captain America's fantastic. This could be years and years from now. It could be a decade from now for all we know, but I do think eventually it will happen. Next question comes from Jordan Mann, who asks, how do you think Disney could manage their large crowds? Sometimes when I go, there's so many people at the parks can't hold all these people who want to go. Is a new park really the solution? I don't think a new park's a solution, and I think there's no direct answer as to how they're going to manage their crowds, but I think the indirect answer is the Magic Bands. I think the Magic Bands, they have RFID chips in them. That means they can track everything from where you're buying to what rides you're riding. And while that might sound like suspicious and evil, I don't think they would use it for those reasons. I think they would use it for the specific reasons we're talking about here, which is the park crowds. You know, they can look at that data and go, hey, everybody goes on Soarin' at 3 in the afternoon. Let's put our new attraction or new show on the opposite side of the park. So now maybe some people will go look at that instead and it will balance it out. Or it could be as simple as, hey, we put an RFID reader in the pathways and we notice everyone takes this left pathway and it gets clogged up. So let's go put another pathway over here, make it wider, do something like that. Like that's possible now that they have these My Magic Band technology. And that's why I think even though on the surface, it doesn't seem like a logical financial decision, I think down the road it will end up saving them more money than maybe they even think. Data is so valuable, and these My Magic Band wristbands give them data. Next question, and the final question this week comes from TK Official Gaming, who asks, Rob, if you could make a ride at Disney World or Disneyland, what would it be and why? Mine would be some sort of Frozen ride because Disney has always made a lot of money from Frozen, and you couldn't blame them to make a ride or a section of the park. I think you'll see a ride around the time Frozen 2 rolls out. Whether or not I agree with it, other story I've talked about in the past. What would I make? I think you already know it would be original because I've talked about that probably till I was purple in the face. I think it would be a spiritual successor to Horizons, which means maybe it would have some references to Horizons, but it wouldn't be a recreating of Horizons. What it would be a ride that focuses on how we're going to live in the future. My other idea that I think a lot of other people have, if it is going to be based on a Disney property, is please give me a Tron roller coaster. Make it an indoor roller coaster with all the neon lights and the black lights so it looks like you're playing light bikes inside the roller coaster. Make the cars look like light bikes. Make the beginning queue area look like NCOM, where you get zapped in before you go on the bikes. Make the post-queue area a functional and free arcade like Flynn's Arcade with 80s music and all that Tron merchandise. Please, somebody make it. I understand that Test Track looks kind of Tronish, but can you imagine how amazing a roller coaster would be that looks like light bikes with Daft Punk soundtrack blasting in the background? That would be so crazy. Please make it Disney. Please, please, please. Anyway, I want to thank you for joining me for another Q&A. There might be another one next week. It might be something else. Like I said, until the creative server gets all sorted, I'm going to be filling in that series with something else. Please, if you have a question about Disney, leave it in the comments. If I don't get to it on the show, I try to at least answer in the comments. I want everybody to have a fantastic week. Whatever you're doing, please make the most of it because it makes it so much better and more enjoyable. If you like what you're seeing here, feel free to subscribe or tell some friends about it. You know, getting the word out is a great way to ensure that, you know, I could make more and more content for you people. And most importantly, above all, like I've said, have a great week because it makes it so much better. Well, make the most of your week because it makes it so much better. And then as a result, you have a great week. And if you want to check out everything I've been seeing here, head on over to MC Magic. You know, this is all fun to watch in video, but walking around here is truly an amazing experience in person as well. Bye, everybody.